Hey, welcome to a new season of the College Football Junkies. My name is Mark. Goes Montana to my left on the screen. New season's upon us. In fact, football has started. We had the Hall of Fame game for the NFL last night, and I don't know if you watched that, Montana, but that was a great football game that we watched. And what a drive by Haynes King at the end of that game to propel the Panthers on top over the Cardinals. Football is officially back. Fall camp has started for a lot of college football teams, namely Nebraska, which this is going to be a pretty Nebraska heavy yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of interesting storylines with Nebraska football. Got a new quarterback after Dylan Raiola transferred to Oregon. We'll touch more on Dylan Raiola later in the episode. But the new face in the room is Anthony Calandria. And I tell you what, Anthony Calandria, to a lot of people, it's a breath of fresh air as to what he is going to bring. He is a true dual threat. He can roll out of the pocket, something that Dylan Raiola could not do particularly well. So yeah, I'm super stoked, man. And I just lost all my websites. It closed out on me accidentally, but
No worries.
but yeah, what are your thoughts as we get into the season?
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's definitely not the easiest schedule we've ever had. Looking into the future, it looks like our schedule gets slightly easier going forward past this season. It looks like this is kind of, in my opinion, the hardest it's going to be. But I also think we have an improved roster that is ready for the level of challenge that this schedule is going to provide. I don't think we're going to be a team that's going to blow lead. It's going to be a team that's going to look. I mean, we've looked better and better as we've progressed the last couple of years, but I don't think we're going to even look like the same team we did last year in a lot of ways. And I mean that in the best way. I think we're going to look much improved and like a whole different team in the areas that matter. So, starting first, obviously, we're talking about the season. It's a long season, it's a big season. A lot of games, a lot of big games. We're going to break the schedule down to start our episode off. That first game, that week 1, is Nebraska versus Ohio. And no, it's not Ohio State. It is the Ohio Bobcats. Definitely a different type of team, in my opinion. I'll definitely take Ohio over Ohio State in week 1. Looking at this game, I mean, let's be honest. Even the team we had last year, the team we had this year before, any Nebraska team, we are a top tier college football program. Are we always top tier? Absolutely not. But we are historically a top tier program that should not be losing to Ohio no matter what season it is. Honestly, truly. This is one of those games where you're just getting your feet warm. Maybe you give the backup some time to play. You just give the whole team an opportunity to get on the field and look good and feel good and get a feel for how the season is going to go. Give the fans a feel for the talent you have. In my opinion, this is going to be a 35-7 win. I do think there's a reality where Ohio scores less, where Ohio scores slightly more, but I would not give them over 2 touchdowns on the Huskers, if even that. I would say it's going to be a 35-7 W to give the Huskers that 1-0. What is your thoughts on that? I believe it's September 5th. Is that correct?
Yeah, week 1, September 5th.
Is it going to be a hot one? Before we go into the year, do you think it's going to be a hot one? Because that first game,
it usually is pretty toasty. The game is kicking off right at 11 o'clock. So it might get a little toasty. I'm hoping not. Things are pointing to slightly below average temperatures as we go throughout the month of August. So I'm fingers crossed because I'm planning on being in the stadium week 1. But yeah, as far as the game is going to go, there's a lot of interesting things that are, or to talk about as we get into the season. I mean, namely, we've got a new offensive line coach in Jeep Wade, and he's really hit the ground running as far as developing not only the guys on the roster that were already there, but the big-time transfers that we picked up, too. the offensive line is going to be quite the strength for the team this year, especially with a quarterback that can roll out of the pocket. And his Anthony Calandre can throw the ball downfield too. I think the game is going to be pretty easy. I don't think, especially with Rob Orch's defense, I don't think the Ohio Bobcats are going to score very much. I think the score is going to be a lot to a very little. So give me Nebraska in that one. I'm going to say something like 56-7 ish. I think Ohio scores a garbage time touchdown late in the game to with all the backups in.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're going to score any meaningful points, and I think it'll be separated from literally. I mean, the Huskers are going to be able to score in a big way early on, and probably multiple scores early on. So it'll be a good game. I might also be there week one. I'm not entirely sure yet, but it's going to be a great way to start. And then we've got Bowling Green. Similar story to Ohio. I'm going 42-10. I think it's going to be around the same type of score. I think here's the thing. We've seen Nebraska have close first four games. We've seen them drop one in the first 3 or 4. I don't think this is that season. I think these first 3 games are going to be super, super solid, and you're going to see the Huskers break 100 points scored in these first 3 games. I think you're going to see them putting points on the board, and honestly, I don't want to say they're going to be looking better than they are, but they're probably going to be feeling pretty confident, as they should, going into that Michigan State game after they get through North Dakota. So I think they beat Bowling Green 42-10, and then I also think they beat North Dakota 35-3, 35-7, if not more. North Dakota
they're a solid football program in the FCS.
They're solid. I don't want to say. I think they're around the same level. I think all 3 of these teams are pretty much the same level. I don't know, because North Dakota is a decently solid football team in their division. There's a chance that they could flip it and be the most competitive game. But whoever is the most competitive game is probably only scoring 14 points max against the Huskers, because no matter who these teams are up against the Huskers, this Husker team is much improved. And I mean, again, you throw the Husker team last year or even the year before against these first 3 opponents, and it should be 3 wins no matter what. So I think all 3 games, it's separated by 4+ scores pretty easily. But again, like you said, North Dakota is a decent FC. They're a pretty decent school in their division. And also, by that point, the Huskers aren't going to be sleepy, but do they drop anything? Are they feeling super confident from 2 really big wins, Ohio and Bowling Green, that North Dakota punches them in the mouth once or twice and maybe scores 1 meaningful touchdown early on, and then the Huskers take over? I think it could be like that, something along those lines. Either way, the Huskers leave those first few games 3-0. What are your thoughts on Bowling Green and North Dakota? Because like you mentioned, North Dakota is a pretty solid school in their respective division. So do you think that they'll be the team that gives us a run for our money in the first 3?
Well, they might have the best shot. Obviously, it's not North Dakota State, but I mean, you go back a few years ago, North Dakota came here and we were tied at 17 before Nebraska pulled away and ultimately won 38-17. It was a pretty ugly effort in that game, and kind of had me on the edge of my seat. It's like, oh no, is an FCS team going to come in and upset Nebraska for the first? It would be the first, I think, FCS, or I guess Iowa's gotten upset by North Dakota State. If you can claim that's an upset, well, you know how elite North Dakota State is. And they're no longer FCS. They're FBS now. They're in the Mountain West. So, but yeah, they should be easily 3-0. I think with, having a good offensive line coach, calling a good running game, as well as our new defensive coordinator, I don't think these teams are going to get much on Nebraska in the first 3. Bowling Green, that's going to be another 50 something to very little on the scoreboard for Bowling Green. And then North Dakota is probably going to be a lot of the same. It might be slightly lower scoring for Nebraska, but I think Nebraska does get in the 40s. I I think for Bowling Green, I'm going to go with like I don't know a 52-3 type score for that game, and then for North Dakota, like a 48-7 type score for that one. Before we continue on, there was an article that I saw, talking about Rob Orich, on that defense. To anybody who knows anything about Rob Orich, he coached the defense in Idaho for the Idaho Vandals. And they went from a bottom tier defense to, I think, top 15 nationally in total defense in 1 year. He then did the same at San Diego State. In 1 year, he took a bottom tier defense, and they were, I think, top 5 nationally this last year. So the dude can coach defense. We're going to a more. It's going to be a way more balanced scheme than the 3-3-5 that we were running. It's a 4-2-5. You've got 4 down linemen, you got 2 nickel backers, and then you've got 5 DBs. So I think that's going to be quite the change. The defense is going to be good. The offense is going to be good because Dana Holgerson's actually going to be able to call games the way he wants to. And I think we're going to see a more explosive Nebraska offense, especially in these first 3. And if they could put up some big numbers in these first 3, they're going to be rolling pretty high, going into that Michigan State game. And Michigan State, that's an interesting case because they got Pat Fitzgerald as their head coach. They got a good staff, but so much turnover happened to that roster over the last year. So the game against Michigan State and wins by, I think, at least 2 scores. So I think Michigan State will make things interesting for a while, but I think Nebraska probably wins something like 38 to like 23-ish. I think Nebraska will be favored going into Michigan State. I think that environment Michigan State will make it tough a little bit on Anthony Calandria, but I think Nebraska prevails by 2 scores.
I can see that. I also have Nebraska winning. I agree that the environment is going to be different because, again, he is coming from a conference and environments that probably don't even compare to any Big Ten or any environment such as that. And Michigan State and Nebraska, we don't have a rivalry, but we kind of low-key have a little bit of some heated battles and some close games and some back and forth in our overall wins and losses. So I think it's going to be our toughest test yet, obviously, because it's going to be our first Big Ten matchup. I have it being a little bit closer than you. I still have us winning for sure. I do have it being slightly closer. I think that we're going to win 28-17. So it's not much different. It's a few points off, but I think it's still going to be a game where we're winning pretty solidly. I don't think Michigan State breaks 20. I think they're going to get stopped on a run in the second half and then kick that field goal that puts them up to 17. And then I think that's where that's going to lie because I do think the Husker defense is going to do a lot better job of closing out this season. So I truly do think it's going to be that 28-17 win. So we're still rolling. We're up. And then we've got Maryland. And Maryland is another game that is interesting because I just feel like the Huskers are good at dropping the dumbest games, no matter how good of a team they are. When they're a better team than some seasons, they don't drop certain games. But I just think they're a team that could drop to an Illinois, to a Maryland, to any given random game. I don't believe that's going to happen this season. I think they're going to continue rolling and beat Maryland, but I think it's going to be a slightly lower scoring game. I think it's going to be 24-14. I don't think it's going to be a crazy high scoring game. I think it's going to be a decently low scoring game that we see a lot of defense. But I do think the Huskers come out on top, and that puts them, 5-0 going into some of their bigger matchups. And that's a really good place to be. We've seen this Husker team before go into those big matchups with these 5-0 or whatever it may be. And obviously, I mean, by this point, I would think they'd be ranked if they're sitting where they'd be 5-0. I think they'd be low 20s, mid teens, probably low 20s. I don't think they'd break the 20s. They'd probably be like 21st, 22nd going into their week against Indiana. So I'm really confident. I think they have a really good game against Maryland and keep that steam. What are your thoughts? Do they beat Maryland and go 5-0, or do they have a dumb loss again before they?
I think Maryland. That game's at home. I mean, the last couple of games Nebraska has played up against Maryland have been super weird. I mean, last year, Dylan Raiola threw 3 interceptions in that game, but Nebraska still prevailed and won on a late game drive. But I think it'll be different this year. Maryland's coaches don't necessarily come up with the best game plans. I think this is a game where Nebraska is going to get ahead early, and you might see this Maryland team shut down. I think Nebraska gets up by a couple of scores pretty early, and I think it's pretty easy. They're out. I've got Nebraska a little bit of a wider margin, winning this one like 35-13. Again, I think the Nebraska defense is going to take a pretty big step, and I don't think Maryland's going to have a great defense.
Uh-oh, I think it might have kicked him. Apologies, guys. I think that's my Wi-Fi. Oh, he's back. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. I just was, before you got back on quickly, I was explaining that we're having some technical difficulties. I'm glad that took that long for that to happen. But if that does happen again, I will leave the stream and rejoin because I don't think it won't end it. So if it does that again, once you're back on, I'll leave. Anyways, continue. I'm sorry, bro. That was like the worst time for that to happen.
All right. Am I visible to everybody?
Yeah, you're good. You're fully on.
All right. But I think, as we...
And that didn't take that long. All right, well, that's unfortunate. Sorry about that, guys. We're having technical difficulties at the moment. Unfortunately, at the worst part of the show, because we're getting into the Big Ten games, right when we start talking about the Big Ten matchups. All right, I'm going to leave. I'll be back. You talk and can finish what you were saying, and I'm going to try to rejoin.
Okay.
So I will be back.
But if you guys can still hear me, that Maryland game, I think Nebraska is going to get some stops. I don't think Maryland's going to have really much to say as far as their defense.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
My goodness. Like, it keeps, cutting out at possible time. I'm trying We'll try. Yeah. Weird. Possible time. I'm trying.
Oh my god, this is like the Twilight Zone, pal. I don't know what's going on. Well,
I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
We might need to restart. I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
We might need to restart.
If
I'm hearing an echo.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna try to rejoin one more time because if we restart, I don't know how that'll. Let me try to rejoin one more time.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
I'm gonna try to rejoin one more time because if we restart, oh my god. Anyways, enjoy this, guys. I hope you've enjoyed our little.
All right. So I was talking about the Maryland game. I don't think. Again, they're not going to have much to say on their defensive side. Maryland's not known for their defense. So that game, I've got it kind of 38-3, maybe even 38-10. They might score a touchdown. They should beat Maryland pretty handily going into Indiana, which that's the first like major test of the season with Indiana coming to Lincoln. So,
right.
Okay, let's see.
Is there an echo?
Is there? Oh no, you're frozen.
That's not a good start.
You're frozen. Why do we have to have technical difficulties when we're trying to record a video?
Hey, we have more viewers live now. Can you? Am I unfrozen now? Am I good?
I think so. Keep talking.
So I think it's fixed. I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's fixed, but it looks, the picture's better. I don't hear an echo. We should be
okay. So
okay, continue.
I just said my closing thoughts on the Maryland game. I think it's going to be, Maryland's defense is not known to be good. I think there's going to be a lot of plays to be made downfield. Nebraska's wide receiver core is good. I think the running back room is pretty good too. The offensive line should be able to lean on that defense a little bit. And I think the defense is going to get after it. I think you're going to see, a better defensive effort than we saw last year against Maryland. So I think the game will be like a 35-10 Husker win going into that Indiana week, which that's obviously going to be a huge game, especially if Nebraska is unbeaten going into that game.
We will be ranked by then if we're 5-0.
Oh, they'll be ranked.
Do you think, because I'm thinking just because of where we're sitting at when we go into it, I think we'll be around like 20, 21, 22. Do you think we'll break into the teens if we're 5-0, or do you think we'll be around that?
I think it depends on how things shake out in the back end of that top 25. Sure. I think there's depending on how Nebraska handles these first few games going into that Indiana week, you could see Nebraska being ranked number 18, number 19 going up against Indiana. But just out of, realistically, I think Nebraska will probably fall 20, 21.
Yeah. It'd be a great spot because, Indiana are they 7th right now, or are they 8th?
I don't know. Let me pull up the preseason top 25.
They're definitely going to be within the top 15 at that point, probably top 16.
Yeah.
Or even more realistically, probably top 12 in that playoff contention. But that is a big game because that is at home. That is going to be. It's not like we're playing against the national champ team of last year. What did you find?
So Indiana's. I'm not going to doubt Cignetti anymore. We saw what they did the last couple of years. They made the college football playoff his first year. They obviously go on an undefeated run to win the national championship last year. Like, man, Indiana, football national champion. Like, who would have thought? It's a historic basketball school, for crying out loud. But again, not the same team. They're going to have good players, yes, but I do think Nebraska has done a good job at bringing in a lot more blue chip players in the last several recruiting classes. Nebraska also leads the Big Ten in player retention at over 80%. So Nebraska's got more snaps coming back. I think that's going to pay dividends.
Yeah.
They're having to break in less players. And the game's at home.
True.
I think out of the tough games on the schedule, I think Indiana is probably the best one Nebraska can get. If you're talking the big three, Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon. That Ohio State game is going to be interesting too. I'll get to that in a moment. But I think Nebraska, I think is going to be their homecoming weekend. So should be a pretty ruckus atmosphere, especially if you have two undefeated teams going into that game. It's probably going to be a big noon kickoff type game. I'm hoping it's not big noon. I'm hoping it's like a college game day 6:30 kickoff at night, because that would be really cool. But I think Nebraska beats Indiana. It's a very, very winnable matchup compared to, say, the likes of Oregon or Ohio State, because Ohio State and Oregon arguably have the two best rosters in the Big Ten. But I think Nebraska wins a close one against Indiana at home. I think it'll be a thriller. I think Nebraska wins off of a last-second field goal. So give me Nebraska in this one, 31-28. I think it's going to be a stunner. What do you think?
So I do also think it's going to be a close game. I do have Indiana coming out on the other side of it. I think this will be our first loss. I think Indiana wins on a walk-off late touchdown and wins 35-28. We're not going to get blown out. Again, if this was the Indiana team of last year versus our team this year, I still don't think we would get blown out. Versus our team last year, we would have probably gotten blown out. But versus our team this year, because I do think we've improved in enough areas as a team, I don't think we would get blown out against last year's Indiana team with the talent we have now. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I still have to give it to the national champs, the defending national champs, which are on a list we're going to talk about later, underrated or overrated. But look at this. We got an Indiana fan joining us.
Hoosiers repeat. Okay.
In time. Maybe you're not an Indiana fan. Maybe you just think they're going to repeat. Either way, I don't believe they repeat. I don't think.
I think it's going to be Ohio State or Oregon.
Truthfully, I don't think any team is going to repeat in the college football playoff era. I think it's going to be very damn hard to repeat. I think it's very possible, but I don't think with the amount of teams that are now in the playoffs, it's going to be very hard because it's not like March Madness where there's like so many teams, but anything could happen. Fair enough. Wow, okay. San Diego State. Well, probably not going to win too much as the fan of that team, but you never know. Maybe a game here or there. But no, I think we're going to lose by a score, and I think we play them again the following season away, and I think we'll get the season. I think it'll still be a close game, but I think we'll big brother them in that one. But I just, for me, Cignetti, you can't doubt him. That guy went there. Apparently, the Purdue AD is doubting him, or maybe he just likes to make ridiculous comments. That is fair. So you're obviously a Lakers fan, right? I'm just kidding. I know you're not. You should. You should be though, right? Right, Mark? Lakers all the way.
No.
We're all going Lakers. Are you? Time out. I know we're talking college football. I gotta ask you though, how excited were you when you guys got Giannis for the Heat? Were you excited? Were you like, let's go? Is it a championship?
Oh yeah, dude, the Heat roster is really good. If they stay healthy, they're going to be a top 4 team in the East next year.
But LeBron's 76ers will be first. I'm just kidding. It'll be interesting. The East is going to be a dogfight. I mean,
Oh
you've
my
got
gosh.
Celtics, 76. I mean, you've got 5 or 6 teams that could all make a push. Realistically, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting. But sorry, I'm sorry to throw us off the. Fair enough.
The Bucks are going to be an interesting case, to be fair, because I don't know what they're going to do without Giannis.
I think the Heat will be a team like when LeBron went there. I'm not comparing them. When LeBron went there, it took a season or two for it to really like pick up. I think the Heat will probably be a 5 or 6 seed this season, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be very wrong. They could be a top 3 seed for all I know. But
Right.
it will be interesting. But no, back to the Huskers and Indiana. I do think they lose, and that's their first loss. And then we've got Oregon, and we're going to talk about Mr. Rayola and his cornfield comments and his talent comments and all of that in just a little bit. But before we talk about that, we've got to talk about this matchup. And like you said, I agree with you. So spoiler alert, on my prediction, I don't have them beating any of those 3 games right now, but I do agree that the most realistic win is against Indiana. I think Oregon is a team that, especially since we're playing them away, let's if we're gonna talk about, we got UCLA in the house. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Okay, you know what? Speaking about, before we're gonna segue, how's UCLA gonna be, Mark?
I think UCLA, they've recruited pretty well. I think they could be, an 8-9 win team. Realistically, they could be pretty solid.
And their schedule isn't too bad, correct? It's not. It's one of the more winnable ones, if I remember.
Let me pull up their schedule real quick.
This guy just missed the playoffs. I don't know about how. I don't know about just missed.
We will just miss the playoffs. I don't know about that. You guys will probably be pretty decent, but I don't. So, just breaking down real quick. So UCLA, they open up the season against Cal. Then they play San Diego State. They play Purdue. Play Maryland. Play at Oregon. Play Wisconsin, Michigan State, Nevada, Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, which Michigan's going to be tough, and then USC, and USC is going to be a tough matchup. We'll be ranked around 15. I think they'll be ranked in the top 25. I don't know if they'll be ranked that high.
I bet they'll be 18, 17, 19.
Maybe if they finish with 8 or 9, they'll probably be ranked in the mid to upper teens.
Yeah, it'll be good. We have a lot of West Coast football fans that seem to like our show.
I know. Welcome.
We'll have to remember. We'll always give some West Coast love. Any Hawaii Rainbow Warrior fans out there? Me right here. 2 losses and we will beat Michigan.
Michigan's gonna be good, man. I don't know. I think Michigan's gonna be really good.
Michigan's coming in like 18, 19, I think, preseason polls. Something pretty not low, but I think
Michigan's gonna be good. I would not be shocked if Michigan won 10 or 11 games. Like they got a really good roster and they got a really good coaching staff.
I agree. Back to Oregon and Nebraska. Give me Nebraska losing 35-24. I think we score on them. I think first half it might actually look like we're going to win. I think we'll keep it respectable in the first half, and it'll be a good game. But then I think they pull it off, and that'll be our second loss of the season, which would be 5-2. Well, an off season. I mean, back to that. I think that's fair, but I also think if anything, they're further. I mean, they've had because they had stuff with Harbaugh, which obviously that wasn't the same as their last situation with their last coach. But you're going on 2 back-to-back situations with coaches. But I just think who they have there now and like the program that they have now, I just think they're gonna have a good season. I don't think Michigan. Michigan. Also true. When Harbaugh is your coach, he holds you together. Fair. Fair. This is what I think. I think Michigan is either right outside the college football playoffs or right in. I think they might get a bid, but I don't see them dropping uh, below. I think they'll be like 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, somewhere in that range. I don't see them breaking in the top 10. I don't. They could, but I think they're going to get
I
a college football playoff
I
bid for
think
sure.
Michigan arguably with Whittingham, doing what he did in the transfer portal. I think they.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, appreciate that comment. Welcome in. Um, but going into a first season with Kyle Whittingham as your head coach, they pulled in a lot of transfers, a lot of higher end transfers.
They did.
Um, they've got a top 4 roster, arguably in the Big Ten right now. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be interesting to see how they are under Kyle Whittingham in his first year. They could be an 8-win team. It could take a year to figure it out, or you're going to unlock. Whittingham is going to unlock the skill set of Bryce Underwood as their quarterback. Bryce Underwood's a really good runner, and as we all know, Utah had a really good runner at quarterback too. And Whittingham utilized him pretty well. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting football season. I think we're going to see some surprises this year.
Yeah, we will. We will.
We could see another different national champion compared to where we were before when Alabama was winning it all, and then you had Georgia repeat. Like, we're not going to see any repeat champions, I don't think, back to back anymore.
I think we won't either. I just think we're past that era of football, and because it's so hard, I think we're almost past that era of sports period, because so many teams reload, reboot, and now we're looking at college sports with NIL. You're essentially able to you are paying your players to come back and make your team stronger. And so I don't think we will ever see, not ever, that's a dumb ever. We'll see someone go back to back. It'll be the Huskers, right? No, we'll see back to back. I don't know. Okay, hold on. I didn't see
every other. What do you say? Wow, damn, throwing shade.
Whatever. Tiger. What is that? What is that? Clemson? Is that LSU?
What Tiger are we talking about? LSU taking over? They could be pretty interesting in the SEC.
They're gonna be the 8th seed, 7 seeds in the playoffs, something like that.
They may make the playoff. I think Lane Kiffin will.
I think they'll be 6 to 8 ranked, something like that. Realistically, it's gonna be an interesting. That's gonna be an interesting landscape too, with all the different teams and different people going to different places, both coaches and I'm still. But anyways, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I do think LSU is going to be much improved. I think Kiffin, as much as he just likes to pack up and leave a lot of teams that he's been a part of, I do think he's going to lead this team to a national championship at some point. I don't think it'll be this season, but I do think there'll be a team in the top 10 for the whole season.
I went to LSU with Burrow, Chase, and Jefferson. Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome. Let's go. Okay, so you've got a reason to say. We'll pull it back up. You've got a good reason to say this. That's pretty sweet, man. That team. Let's talk about briefly. That team is definitely
was incredible.
That's a top 10 college football team of all time, top to bottom, easily.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. I'm not pretending I knew them. That's still pretty cool that you went to school in that same time. Yeah, what a fun season to be out of school.
Did you go to games, and how was the atmosphere? Because I am curious. I've only ever been to Husker games and then one Hawaii game, which I figured out. UNLV is where our quarterback is from, right?
Yes.
Bro, I've seen him live. He played in that game. I saw Huskers or not Huskers. I saw UNLV versus Hawaii last season.
Yeah, and Anthony Colangelo was the quarterback. We were ranked number 2 as a party school.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I bet.
Heck yeah.
I bet.
I want to
Did you
just
give your
briefly.
yeah.
I've always wanted to go check out a game atmosphere at LSU. Like I've had buddies go down there just to check it out. I want to be like if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd be buying a game at a lot of the major or buying Wisconsin was one. Oh yeah, that's not surprising. But I want to buy a ticket to a lot of the major like college football sites and go see a game at each one.
Yeah.
Like it would be pretty incredible. LSU is at the top of my list. You know, obviously going to Nebraska, that's going to hold a place in my heart.
Oh yeah.
I love the atmosphere in Memorial Stadium, but getting to experience, Death Valley at night, would be pretty cool. Going to a game at Clemson when they're good would be pretty cool. Going to a Virginia Tech game, going to Horseshoe. I can rattle off a bunch of these sites.
Amazing.
So many great venues.
Just like the history, because here's the thing. Like you said, Memorial Stadium's number 1, regardless of whatever, just because that's home and it's a special place. But to witness like that in another place, because that exists in other places. We are lucky to have so much of it in Nebraska at Memorial Stadium, but that like whatever you want to call it, magic, that like history that exists in other places. And here we go. I was wondering, Smoke, it's good to see you. I mean, I've missed you. I don't think maybe you tuned into 1 or 2 of our Well Beyond the Arc shows last season, but I don't think I've seen you since the college football show last season. I think you tuned in last time, and honestly, you know what? It's fine. We got Luca. We're going all the way. Moving on to the next game. This is going to be a great one. Halloween.
Washington could be blackout game.
Nebraska, blackout night game. That game. So, I think I do think that this is that is true. Honestly, that is fair. It's fair. But honestly, a lot of the claims that have been made are very valid on this show and all shows. But I thought this being our bounce back game, we're at 5-2 at this point. I think Washington is an interesting team because they're very consistently a good team, and sometimes they're even a great team, but they're also very consistently inconsistent. And I think Washington has a lot of talent, and it's not going to be a game where we're just blowing them out of the water. I think it's going to be a competitive game. But after losing to Oregon and to Indiana, I do think this Husker team is going to be able to bounce back, and I think that it's going to be a decently high-scoring Halloween game. And I give me them winning 35-28. I think it's going to be about a 1 score. I also can see Washington being down a little bit more than that. Maybe it's a 2-score game, but I think the Huskers control the game and win and finish. Honestly, what would that be? 6-2, and there's right there.
Yeah. What is a Cornhusker? Inquiring minds need to know.
Great question.
It is a great question. So that name goes back, obviously Nebraska is an agricultural state. A Cornhusker is someone who goes out in the cornfield. You actually husk the corn by hand. So that would be Cornhusker. So it's just a part of the heritage of the state of Nebraska. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, that's about it. It's nothing too crazy, but I will say it's better than the bug eaters, right?
Right. Oh, 100%.
But yeah, I do think Nebraska wins. What are your thoughts? I mean, that's going to be a fun environment. I do think it could be a blackout, and like you said, I think it could be a blackout, and I think we had a blackout game last year.
Good football team, awful name.
Fair enough. I think this would be our blackout game because that
Yeah.
US
Oh yeah.
obviously Raiola went down and it just wasn't a great finish. I think this could be our like blackout game. So what are your
Yeah.
thoughts? Do you think we control
I
the season? Did you give your Oregon? I don't know if did I just
so I didn't give my Oregon prediction, but I think that's going to be a closer game than what maybe or what most people think. I think it's going to be pretty competitive throughout. Um, I'm going to have Oregon win that one like 35-27. I think Oregon wins that one by 8 points.
yeah.
Because Nebraska against a lot of these higher tier teams, like the last few years, you talk about Ohio State. Nebraska hasn't gotten blown out the last several times they played them. Oregon's going to be in that case too, and so is Indiana this year. I don't think Nebraska's going to get blown out. I think it'll be close at Oregon. I think Oregon does prevail with the home field advantage, though. Home field advantage is a real thing in college football. So yeah, I got Oregon winning that, and then I do have Nebraska bouncing back after that. They got Washington after a bye week, so they got a bye week to kind of regroup. I do think Nebraska comes out and wins a likely blackout night game against Washington. I think it'll be like a 38-24 type game. I think the atmosphere is going to be absolutely rocking for another blackout. I think Nebraska is going to prevail against Washington. That'll put them likely, I don't know, could be 7-1 if they can knock off Indiana, but probably likely 6-2. Going up against Illinois on a Friday night, which where have we heard this before? Nebraska seems to always play Illinois on a Friday night anymore. So what are your thoughts on Nebraska, Illinois?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to rattle off the next two because for a specific reason. We've got Illinois and then we've got Rutgers. Is that right, or do we have Ohio State before Rutgers?
No, it's after Rutgers. It's a week after Rutgers.
So we've got Illinois and then Rutgers. We are going to lose one of these games. We are going to have a stupid loss. And I think on my list, I have it to the Rutgers. I have us losing by a field goal to the Rutgers in a stupid 24-21 loss. So I think we beat Illinois, but I think we beat them like 24-10. I don't think it's going to be a super high-scoring game. I mean, that's a decently high-scoring game for the Huskers that have had very low-scoring 14, 17-point matchups, whatever, in Big Ten. And the Big Ten can be very defensively heavy, but I do think the Huskers will break that 21, and I do think that they will. I think they'll beat Illinois and then lose to Rutgers. But I think it could flip, but I think they're losing one of those.
I get where you're coming from, but I think Nebraska beats both Illinois and Rutgers.
Fair. They should. They should. But I just,
like the whole mantra going into the season is win the games that you're going to be favored in, and Nebraska is likely going to be at least a slight favorite against Illinois, and they'll probably be minimum 10-point favorite to Rutgers. Yeah. Like both of these games should be, a W on the schedule for Nebraska. I mean, you look at the talent eval, Nebraska's got more blue chip per capita over Illinois and Rutgers. So with the talent advantage, you should see Nebraska come out on top. I mean, I get it. In years past, we haven't seen that, but I think this is the year where Nebraska is going to win more of those games that they should win on a yearly basis. I've got Nebraska beating Illinois. I'm going to say like 35-20. I think it'll be close in the first half, but I think Nebraska gets a couple of key turnovers in the second half to pull away. I think Nebraska-Rutgers, I think it's going to be I don't know about Rutgers' offense. Their defense is probably going to be pretty good. And that game could get a little weird because it's in New Jersey. I mean, the last time Nebraska went out there, Nebraska had to walk off Rutgers on a touchdown. But that was when Casey Thompson and Trey Palmer were playing for Nebraska. So I think Nebraska beats Rutgers something like 31-14. That would situate them probably at about 8-2 going up against Ohio State.
Good place to be because, again, that Ohio State matchup is very interesting. I think there's a lot of speculation and question over which Big Ten team is going to be the Big Ten team. Michigan, Ohio State. Who's it going to? And I think Ohio State has
USC can sneak up in that
USC as
conversation
well.
too.
Yeah, USC could sneak up into it. There's definitely talent within the Big Ten, and there's a big question of who's going to be that team. Ohio State consistently has the talent. They consistently have a pretty not favorable schedule because they always have a pretty difficult schedule when you look at it top to bottom, some of the teams that they may play. But overall, for the talent they have, they usually have a pretty favorable schedule. In my personal opinion, if I was ranking the likelihood of a win in those big three games of uh, Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State to me is the least likely one that we win, just because I do think I get it. I get some of the hype around where the game is at, how the game could be, where the game is at in the season. The Huskers would be sitting in, regardless of if it's one loss, two losses, three, however many losses, they're going to be sitting in one of the best places they've been at, if not the best place they've been at the last 10 plus years record wise at this point
Right.
in the season. But I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think it's going to be another game where pretty similar to Oregon. Oregon I had closer. I think I had like an 11-point difference or something like that, a 10-point difference. It's not going to be that big of a. But I think first half it's competitive. Same with this game. I think Ohio State Nebraska first half is competitive. But I think give me Ohio State winning 42-28. I think they pull ahead in that second half and go up by multiple scores and hand us another loss.
So I'm going to go off of trends. Okay. So Nebraska and Ohio State, I think the last 3 times that they've played, Ohio State's only beaten Nebraska by, I think, 8 points or less.
Mm-hmm.
The game's at home. Nebraska, if they're 8-2 going up against Ohio State, it could be a college game day type atmosphere. You could have college game day coming to Lincoln for Ohio State. I think it's going to be another one of those like one possession games. Can Nebraska make an extra play on defense to maybe propel themselves over Ohio State in this one? We've seen it happen before with other teams. I mean, when James Franklin took over against Penn State, or for Penn State, in, was it 2016? Penn State beat Ohio State off of a blocked kick, ran back for a touchdown. So, can Nebraska's defense force a play where they either turn Ohio State over in prime territory, or will Ohio State, will Ohio State's talent ultimately prevail, at like late in the game? I think it's going to be a very interesting game. I think it'll be like a 37 to like 31 type game. I think it'll be a 6-point loss for Nebraska, which won't be bad. But I think there's going to be a lot of questions out of that game is like, what could have Nebraska done to maybe get over the edge against Ohio State? I do think the game at home is going to help. I think the game day atmosphere is going to help Nebraska quite a bit. I think Nebraska's roster could potentially hold up against Ohio State a lot better than the one, say, 5 years ago.
Agreed.
So
that's the thing. I do agree with you on that. I think for me, I have a hard time believing that the Huskers can hold on throughout that entirety of the game against Ohio State, even with their improvements. But I think I said what, like
42-28.
I think I can see there being a reality where I give the Huskers one more score or Ohio State one score less, and it's a little bit closer. I think to your point, and to their credit, it's definitely a much improved roster and a much improved team than say 5 years ago. And the trend, like you also, to your credit, said, it's very close. They've had, even in seasons when they've had way less talent or way
So
less talent that's been together, and
people forget just a couple of years ago with Dylan Rayola's freshman year, Nebraska had the lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And we lost by 4 points.
Yeah, very true. And again,
so
we are a much better team than even last season. So to your point, I get what you're saying, and I think it could very well be a 7 to 10 point loss as opposed to what I said. But I still think it's a loss, and that in my eyes and in my schedule, that gives us 4 losses on the season. But I think we get Iowa. I think last game of the season, we get Iowa. I think it's going to be I have a weird score. I have us winning 35-31. I think they have a field goal. It's going to be a weird matchup where we win by like 4-7 to some weird whatever number like that. I kind of feel like I have a too high of a scoring game because I feel like we either sometimes, I mean, we've seen high scoring games, but I think we've also seen very low scoring defensive battles and very intense battles. And I can see it being a game that maybe neither team breaks 28, but I think it's going to be a Husker win. And on my schedule, that gives us 8-4. I think for me, I also can see us beating Indiana, so that would boost us up to 9. I can't give us Oregon. I can't give us Ohio State. I also could give us. Did I say Rutgers would be a loss?
Yeah.
Also, you make a very good point that it's very easy to like live in the past and think that the Huskers are going to be a team that drops a game that they shouldn't. There's a good chance that does not happen, and so they could be a team that does only lose 2. I think they're going to lose 2 to 4 games, but I also think there is obviously a very realistic floor where I think they only win 7. And I think that's like the floor, the very, very bottom. I think that's probably not going – like I don't want to say 8 is the floor just because I think 7 is a more realistic floor. Looking at their schedule after we broke it down, I definitely think they can win 8 to 9 to maybe even 10, but I think it's going to be a 7 floor for me. And then I think it's going to be a 9 ceiling. I don't think I can go to 10 as the ceiling just because I think it's a competitive enough, difficult enough season, and we have a roster that's better and improved, but I still think we need to see – before I can give us too much, we need to see where they're at as a team because we've had talent. We've had teams with hype going into the season, and then it just kind of has fizzled out. And I don't see that happening, but I just want us to build that, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, whatever it may be before Indiana, and then continue that. That's going to be the key.
Well,
in 5 games, easy, but you've got to get at least a 7.
I tell you what, that Indiana game is going to be pivotal in seeing how the season's going to go. If Nebraska beats Indiana at home, that instantly makes the Oregon game that much more interesting that following week. Because
for sure.
if we're talking a potential undefeated Nebraska going up against Indiana, if Nebraska pulls that off, that's an likely undefeated matchup going up against Oregon. And who knows what that game could hold? We've seen crazy stuff happen in college football. If you got a Nebraska team that's riding high and they just beat the defending national champs, it can snowball into a pretty special season for Nebraska if they can keep that momentum. We've had teams in the past where they get an semblance of momentum and they just can't keep it going. Mm-hmm. If they could find a way to keep it going, this season could be pretty special. And there's a lot of parity in college football nowadays. A lot of these teams are a lot closer to one another than they were, say, 5, 10, 15 years ago.
It's a huge difference. The landscape has been blown wide open.
With Indiana winning the national championship last year, for instance.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the best. That might be the best. That might be the best example, period. Because that is not a football school. That is not a school that you think of having that amount of success. And they built it up so quickly. And that just goes to show where college football is. And so I agree. And I think I'm trying to be both optimistic and realistic, but I also think I can see I think it's being a little not I don't know. I think I'm being a little bit
Cautious.
a little bit, yeah, especially with saying we're going to lose to the record. I mean, the only thing is, like you said, it's an East Coast matchup, and that does make a difference. And I just think we'll have one stupid loss, whether it be Rutgers, Illinois, maybe it's Maryland. I don't think it is. I also look, I'm kind of disappointed about this. The homecoming game is actually Maryland, so
Oh, it is.
so we shouldn't lose that one. But so yeah, I think we definitely go at least 8. I think 8-4 would be
8-4 would be a solid season.
and we'd finish like top 25 with, I'd say. You might need 9 to guarantee you get a top 20 finish, but I don't, just depending on the landscape. But I think we finish 8-4. What are your thoughts on Iowa and our final record?
I think Nebraska gets Iowa this year. I think it'll be like a 17-13 type game. It's going to be cold. It could possibly be snowy on Black Friday. So I think we're going to see a very, very good defensive matchup. Like we have seen from Nebraska and Iowa in the past. We've seen very, very close defensive games. I think Nebraska will prevail. I think they score one more touchdown to propel them above Iowa 17-13. Ultimately finishing, I'm going to say 9-3 for my season prediction. But if they can knock off Indiana, I think they could, like on the high side, I think they could finish with 10.
Yeah.
I do think they have the roster. I do think they have the coaches that could potentially finish with 10. I'm not saying they will finish with 10. But if they can find a way to beat Indiana early, a lot can happen in this season.
That blows the whole thing wide open. That's the pivotal week for sure.
It's the pivotal week because there's an extreme likelihood you're going into that game unbeaten.
Yeah.
And that game's at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you find a way to beat Indiana, all of a sudden you're probably in the low teens for ranking because you're going into that game ranked, unbeaten. You'll probably be ranked after beating Indiana like 12-13. Like, you could have a borderline top 10 matchup against Oregon the next week. Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we've seen crazy stuff happen in college football. A lot more parity. We'll see, but right now my season prediction is 9-3. I think Nebraska does finish as a top 20 team, and I do think they get a bowl win at the end of it all to propel them to 10. I do think they finish 10-3 at the end of the season.
I also think they get a bowl win. I don't. I think 10-3 for sure. Yeah, I can also see 9-4 if they go my original record. Either way, I think it'll be a huge improvement and it'll be a big step in the right direction. And then we will not talk about this tonight because it's so far in the future, but we will break down the next year's schedule even during this next season at some point. And it does look, in my opinion, at least slightly improved and a little bit, especially for where our team
a little bit more favorable.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going in the right track, but we're going to move on. We're still talking Huskers, but we're going to talk a little bit of offense, defense, and coach grades. We have, I believe you said you had an article that had some position grades and different things like that.
Yeah, so I've got 1 through 6.
Perfect.
So going into the preseason, Nebraska has made remarkable improvements, not only on their coaching staff, notably, hiring offensive line coach G. Boyd from Georgia Tech, who helped call a pretty elite run game at Georgia Tech when he was there. You add on a couple of working on both of the lines. You've got Rob Orich from San Diego State, the DC, who turned around that San Diego State defense. They were a top 5 unit last year. A lot of players at Nebraska right now are calling him the mad scientist as far as his defensive schemes that he draws up. So, and the secondary coach, you can't forget like Addison Williams. Nebraska hired him last year. He's recruited very well. They also got a coach from the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a safeties coach there. So, they made remarkable improvements on the, coach's side, but also some would say on the offensive side as well. Notably, running back has the biggest question marks. You've got Emmett Johnson, who exited last year as an All-American, got drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a 1,400-yard running back last year. Had one of the better rushing seasons that Nebraska has had in quite some time. And he just kept getting better as the season went on. The receiver room is going to be improved too. You've got Ja'Cory Barney, who's in his third year with the program now. So he's looking to be good. And Isaiah Hunter, who is a elite downfield threat. And then they added Kawazi Gilmer to the room. He's a transfer from UCLA, who he has elite speed as well. So they added some downfield threats returning. They've got Cortez Mills. Cortez Mills is going to be pretty good as well out of the slot. They've got no shortage of options as far as wide receivers go. At quarterback, they added in Anthony Calandra, a threat quarterback. He rubbed UNL through the ball. That's from last year. Transfer him, put up the same. Talking a statistical season quarterback ever. He put some really good stats. He had over 20 touchdowns. I had 10 interceptions. But then he also added almost 1,000 yards rushing to his name too. So that's going to be good. And then, on the defensive side, you had a bunch returning on defense. Bliss from San Diego. A couple other guys, in the defensive backfield. Danny Odom. Danny Odom was the 5-star recruit Nebraska had in the 2025 class. He could be making a push. Andrew Marshall is the other outside corner who he's going to be pretty locked down. Nobody scored a touchdown on him all last year. So, yeah, they're going to be good. As far as this article goes, so like I was talking to, like my number 3 thing to look at as far as how the season's going to go is the quarterback. Dylan Raiola was a statue. He was a true statue. He couldn't roll out of the pocket very well. And he got sacked like 30 times. It was ridiculous. Not all of that was on the offensive line. I took a stopwatch personally and rewatched games and was timing a lot of Dylan Raiola's dropbacks. There were like 90% of the time he had at least 6 seconds to get rid of the ball. That's more than enough time to get rid of it. He held onto the ball for too long. Adding Calandria gives you the flexibility to get out of the pocket and potentially make plays downfield. Or if he has to tuck and run, he'll tuck and run. What are your thoughts on the addition of Calandria? What do you think it's going to mean for this Nebraska offense?
I mean, I think we've seen them try to add different quarterbacks into their system before that have not worked out with different. Some have been, we've seen very talented quarterbacks such as an Adrian Martinez that have the talent that come in and it doesn't pan out win-wise. We've seen that beyond just him. There's plenty of other quarterbacks that have came in and had skills, and it just has not panned out. I think, excuse me, I think this is different because with how the transfer portal and everything is now, I think I I don't want to say it's more selective, but I just think that despite us getting a player that might be from a conference that's not as high prestige as the Big Ten, like you said, he had the stats to back up the acquisition of him. I mean, it is a really solid quarterback. And also, I think looking at our future, obviously, we have a 5-star quarterback in our future. And so I think it's a good, I don't want to say short term investment, but it feels like a pretty smart move to get Calandria and not to make maybe a longer term investment on a younger quarterback that might want more and might want the starting position for longer. I think he'll have success for his stint as a Cornhusker, but I definitely think the future will go and stretch beyond him. And I think the acquisition of him is showing that the Huskers are looking towards the future. And so I'm happy with the pick. Last season, we obviously had Emmett, and that was huge. We had some of the same offensive talent that we have now that we've kept and grown, but I just think it is a whole different offense, and it's going to be a whole different offense that's going to be more relaxed, like you talked about earlier. Shout out to the offensive line, the coach, and the players that they've brought in. I mean, it's going to make all the difference. Just imagine if we would have had them while we had Emmett. I mean, he had so many yards and had so much space and made so much happen, and we didn't have that great of a line or that great of leadership behind the line. So honestly, last year's offense, in my opinion, if we're talking a letter grade, was a C plus, just because I wasn't super happy with Raiola. Like you said, take a stopwatch and you could time it, and it's very obvious that that's not the offensive line's fault. It was some of it, of course. There were some moments where you could say the line was part of it, but he definitely was just not a very good quarterback with making decisions in the backfield or knowing when to let go of the ball, where to go, when to do it. And so it wasn't a very good system because the quarterback is supposed to see all and lead that. And it didn't feel like he was a very good leader, especially, I'm not going to say off the field, but on the field, it just felt like, I don't know. And I don't want to say that he wasn't a good leader because I have no idea, but it just felt like they just didn't gel as an offense like you would have hoped they would have with the talent they had. So I think there'll be a better offense. I think the acquisition of the quarterback is great. Obviously, the running back leaves a big question mark, but that's really the only question mark on the offense. And it's not really a question mark because are they going to have another player in that position like they did last year? No, but they definitely can cultivate talent and cultivate success in that position. So I honestly think I'm not going to go crazy if I'm giving the offense a letter grade right now. I'm just going to sit at a nice solid B. I think it could easily be a B plus or maybe even slide up into an A, but it's definitely an improvement. That offensive line is better. In my opinion, we have a better quarterback, especially for our system and our setup. And I just think the players that we retained are going to look stronger, and the players that we obtained are going to be a big help to our team. So I'm excited. The defense, I'm confident. I'm not quite as confident in them as I am the offense. I think Rule is obviously going pretty crazy about his defensive line and about who he has, and he obviously, I don't think he would gas them up like that if it wasn't going to be a problem. I do think the defense will be a problem, but I just think we have some tough matchups. We're going to go up against some tough, high caliber offenses, and so because of that, I think it's going to be a little bit of, we're going to have some growing pains possibly, but I think we'll be a decently strong defense. I'm giving the defense a C plus. That might feel a little bit low. I feel like people watching and maybe even you, Mark, might disagree with that low of a letter grade for the defense, but I'm sitting at C plus because I can't give them below that, but I don't feel like I can give them a B quite yet. But overall, I think the Husker team is about a B plus, somewhere around there ranking in my opinion. I think they'd be a low B or a C plus at best last season. So I think they've improved in a lot of facets.
I think, with the defense, like I'm confident that the offense is going to be, really good. I'm really confident that Nebraska's defense is going to, I think they're going to propel even further than they have been. I mean, you talking about like the secondary, The secondary last year was number 3 in the country in terms of pass yards allowed. They had an elite pass defense. There were a lot of the issues last year was run fit. Not calling the right defense in terms of run fit, players playing the wrong gaps. What this defense is going to allow, it's going to allow the defense to play their gaps a lot easier. Rob Orich is an X's and O's guy. He will tell you where you need to be each and every time. And you saw that with his defenses in Idaho. You saw that with his defense in San Diego State. I mean, you talk like you listen to Owen Chambliss, in his, press interviews, after some practices in fall camp when they have player availability. He has nothing but praise for Rob Orich and his schemes that he calls. Like, he is a mad scientist. You go back and watch some of his schemes against, or when he was with San Diego State last year, some of his schemes were absolutely disgusting. And that's what gets me excited for this defense. I think you're going to see a lot of mind games with this defense, and it's going to throw teams off, which is why I think, the games against the big 3 that we talked about, Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon, they could be interesting. If Rob Orich can throw up schemes that throw off, say, Oregon's offense, Ohio State's offense, and Indiana's, like, it could be really, really good for Nebraska. I'm high, like, for offense, I'm going to give Nebraska a B+, maybe even an A-. I like their additions. I think the offensive line has potential to be one of the best in the Big Ten this year. I think the receiver room is as deep as it's been in the last 10 years. And running back room, yeah, there's uncertainty. You lose a 1,400-yard back, but they've got a lot of good young talent in there that they can develop. And they could potentially get a 1,000-yard back this year. So I think it's plus to the defense. I'm confident in Rob Orich's ability to coach an elite defense. Like, it's going to be the biggest key. Can Nebraska force turnovers in key situations? Can they get stops? If they can do those two things, as well as the offense scoring in the red zone, like, Nebraska on offense could move the ball between the 20s without a doubt. They were borderline elite moving between their 20 to the opponent's 20. They just couldn't score. Can Nebraska score in the red zone? Can Nebraska's defense get stops in key situations in the game? Those are the two main points. If they can do those two things, it could be a very, very special season in Lincoln. It very well could be. They got the talent to do it. The no talent BS that, you may be hearing in message boards, you can throw that all away. The recruiting rankings show that they're getting talent into the state of Nebraska. Now it's what you do with the talent. Can you put them in the positions to succeed? And I finally got the voices to do that. We just need to see it on team grade. I'm going to go B+. I think it'll be so. Do you have anything else to add as far as all that goes?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that, like you said, it's going to be just. I mean, it's we've seen bowl games, we've seen them get back to a little more success than what they had before, but I think it's going to be even more. And I agree. I think I'm sitting around a B, but I can also see it being bumped up to a B+ pretty quickly, because I do think the team is going to show up. And I think it's not just going to be in week 1 versus Ohio, when you should show up and when you're expected to win. I think they're going to show up every single week. So I'm looking forward to it. Time will obviously tell how the grades end up, how our predictions end up. But before we move on and kind of talk other things, we have a few not. Well, I guess our last segment is technically Husker as well with our quarterback list. But we'll take a quick Husker break. But before we do, we're going to talk some recruiting news, and then also we can't do a show without addressing Jalen Rayola's comments because every single sports show and commentator, not everyone, but a lot of commentators and people are talking about it, even if they might not talk about Nebraska sports. So we will touch on those comments. Before we do that, Mark, take us through any exciting recruitment news because, like you just alluded to, there is exciting recruitment news and exciting motion recruiting wise for Nebraska.
Well, if anybody's been following the 2027 recruiting class, Nebraska's recruiting class is pretty dang good. It's headlined by 5-star quarterback Trey Taylor, who's obviously very good. He transferred into Millard South, so he's playing his last year of high school football in Nebraska, as well with Tay Ellis, a wide receiver who also committed to Nebraska last year. 4-star product. He also transferred to Millard South. The biggest news right now has to be Ahmad Hudson, currently committed to LSU, but he made some interesting comments as far as the recruiting battle between LSU and Nebraska goes. And he was talking to Tim Verghese of Inside Nebraska earlier this week. And the main quote is, "The program you wouldn't expect to be doing their job to try and get me to come there is doing what they need to do." And he's like, the program you expect it from is what they need to do. Very, very interesting comment out of pertaining to the recruiting battle to chance if Nebraska has a pretty solid year, whether it be 8 or 9 wins and show upside going into 2027, there's a good chance Nebraska is going to flip the number 1 overall tight end and 5-star recruit Ahmad Hudson from LSU, which that would be a big gift. That would put Nebraska at 2 5-stars potentially in the 2027 recruiting class, which is kind of uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Over the last few years. But I mean, you break down Nebraska's 2027 class, like right now, Nebraska is sitting at number 6 in the Big Ten. So you're in a good spot. It's headlined by Trey Taylor, 5-star quarterback, number 1 overall quarterback in the country. You got Torrey Pittman, who's a 5-star product out of Millard North. You got a high-end 4-star product in Jordan Bonema out of Georgia. He's an interior O-lineman. Khalil Taylor, a high-end 4-star product out of Pittsburgh, wide receiver. Corey Hadley, 4-star product out of Georgia as well, safety product. Timu Alau out of Georgia, another offensive tackle product, 4-star. Like, they're getting a lot more of these blue chip guys, and you're seeing that. They're recruiting at a high level. And if they have success, they're just going to recruit at a higher level. There's a potential that Nebraska, if they could finish strong in this 2026 season, they can have a borderline top 10 class signing in 2027. What are your takeaways on, the current recruiting class and even the Ahmad Hudson comments from earlier this week?
I mean, I think it's good. I think the Huskers are doing everything right. I think the staff that we have, because it goes beyond just the head coach. Obviously, the head coach is the headliner, but it definitely goes beyond the head coach, especially in football with all the position coaches and everything. I think who we have in those positions matters. And we've seen that fall short in the past with coaches and recruiting staffs and who we've seen. And I think we've got a really good group of people in command with our recruiting, and it's showing. It's really starting to show. And so I do think we will become a school that is producing continually one of the best recruiting classes. And again, I think it's so hard because with NIL and with the change in the landscape, who knows what school will be where, but I think we will be continually a school that is definitely on the rise, just because I think you're already seeing that, obviously, with all of the talent that is interested in Nebraska, because that has not always been the case. I think we will be able to close the deal on a lot of top tier talent that maybe is honestly looking somewhere else right away or right now, and they can see them flipping. And I think eventually we won't even need to make them flip. We'll just get a lot of that top tier talent that picks us pretty consistently. So I'm excited. I think, again, the team we have now is so much better than the team we had last year. And so the thought of adding some of these 5 stars and some of these 4 stars and just a lot of this talent, and then also just adding on to that recruiting clout so we continue to get 5 stars and top 4 stars, that is a really good thought, and I think we're in the right track. So I will give Matt Rule and his staff credit. I'm not against Rule. I don't dislike Rule. I guess I'm not super high on him. I think a lot of fans are maybe feel the same way, where they are content with him, but they are wanting to see a little bit more at this point. But I do have to give him credit because I do think he is able to recruit. His staff, who he has put in charge of recruiting, is able to get the recruits to be interested, and they're doing a good job, as those comments show. So I'm excited. The future is bright. I think we've talked way back when it was the Connor Heffernan show, and we talked all sports. We were pretty optimistic about the Huskers, but I think we can be. It's more than just being optimistic. I think you're seeing it now. You're starting to see the positive patterns and the things that you need to see for us to go in the right track to be a playoff team, say, or a top Big Ten team. So we're on the right track. Are we there yet? No, but we're definitely moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. Kind of moving on. It's kind of about Nebraska, kind of not. But Dylan Raiola's comments. Very, very interesting. And I don't think they're particularly true, what he said. Like, yes, some of the things could be, but yeah, I'll just start with his comments. So this is what he said at pre-fall camp media availability. It's definitely been a transition. I'll start with the landscape outside. There's not cornfields here. There are mountains and trees, and I love nature. As far as football, it's different with coaches and players. Like, we have a lot more talent than we did at Nebraska, which, by the way, Nebraska had a bunch of talent still. And I don't say that to knock on them, but I think everybody will know that. Raiola attempted, so continuing on in this article, Raiola attempted to clear the air, saying he didn't mean to knock on them, but he still did it anyway. It wasn't very smart of him to do that. He could have just said, hey, I'm at Oregon now. Like, I'm not worried about it. I appreciate my time at Nebraska. Let's just focus on my time here at Oregon now. That would have been the more mature way of approaching it. But he's kind of a head case. You kind of notice that from him as when we picked him up, as a freshman, number 1 quarterback in the country, in the 2025 recruiting class. He came in and was basically gifted the number 1 quarterback spot. And he was expecting all these things. And he made some really good plays. I'm not going to knock him. There were plays that he made that I was impressed, like some of the throws that he made downfield. But I wouldn't knock Nebraska's talent for some of his miscues. Nebraska is still recruiting top 20 talent year in and year out. You have plenty of talent around you. You just got to make it work. And he never did. Now he goes to Oregon and he's going to be sitting behind who's their starting quarterback? Dante Moore. He's going to be sitting behind Dante Moore at least this year. And oh, by the way, Oregon recruited another 5-star quarterback who's going to be fighting next year for that stays transfer this year. It's interesting if he wants to hit the cup. Mahomes, I would imagine he probably wouldn't want to do that. Don't chase the bag. Be different. But I want to hear your thoughts on the comment that I just read off. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think there's a lot of legitimacy to a lot of what he said. I think the one thing that is legit probably would be, Oregon is a powerhouse of talent, and they've consistently had more talent than the Huskers, just top to bottom overall, just because of who they get. I mean, they're a very a lot of people want to go there, and Oregon's a beautiful place. And so I think they're a pretty attractive landing spot for a lot of, top talent, because there's a lot of life and a lot of stuff outside of just college football when you live in a place like Oregon. So I get that. I get the comments that he said make some sense, but it's like you can keep that to yourself. It's not smart to make comments like that, especially because if he went there and is the starting quarterback and is like leading Oregon, then I would still be ticked off and think there's really no merit in what he's saying, but it makes a little more sense. But you are the backup, and realistically, you're not going to ever play at Oregon. I truly don't think could he, go into a game if they're blowing a team out first few games? Could he see some playing time somehow? Yes, but he is not starting, and realistically, he is not going to be the quarterback next season either. I think he is going to hit the portal and end up in like a Big 12 type of team. I really do. I don't see him sustaining and finishing at Oregon. So I think because of all of those factors, and because Nebraska is not a bum team by any means. It's not like he was here for 2 seasons and was on this big Heisman push and was like the big reason that we were good. Like, truthfully, yes, he helped us win some games, but he also was a big part of some of our losses and some of our really negative moments in his 2 seasons there. So obviously he can't help his injury, and that was a bad way to finish it, but the comments just hold no merit and they hold no legitimacy. And I think, again, if he's going to Oregon to start, or it's a whole different thing, then maybe making some sort of comment. But personally, why would he mention Nebraska at all? I mean, it's truly kind of dumb for him to even do that. I would just focus on the future, focus on where you are, and if anything, just give a positive comment, because the problem was, did he say something sort of nice about Nebraska? Yeah, but he started it negative, continued it negative, and then finished it with a kind of positive thing to try to save face. So obviously, like you said, he's a hothead. He's kind of immature, and he's not a leader. So I don't want to sit here and say he's not a leader, because it takes a lot more than what obviously you or I know or do to lead a college football team, but he does not have it. I don't think he has it, and I think those comments show that, because when you're a leader, you have to turn the other cheek and focus on where you are now. So I think he stays with Oregon this season. Oregon has decent success, and then I think Raiola hits the portal and goes somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of want to read these 4 paragraphs from Tyler Crum of Sports Illustrated. It says, "It is true that the Oregon Ducks have more talent than the Huskers, and they have been nationally relevant for quite some time, reaching the postseason several times in the college football playoff era. Even so, It's disrespectful to say that about your former team, which is considered a blue blood in college football. By the way, Oregon is not a blue blood. Plus, the comments aren't exactly true, as Raiola overlooked the talent assembled in Lincoln. Nebraska in 2025 put together a great wide receiver core, a good offensive line, and even had an All-American running back, Emmett Johnson. Right now, Nebraska arguably has a better offensive line, a great and deep wide receiver room, and talented running backs in the backfield. In other words, saying that Oregon has way more talent is not quite accurate when you consider Nebraska's offensive talent. Now, Nebraska needs a good play caller and a good version of Calandre to use it. But Raiola did not just transfer from Akron, which was an interesting comment by this writer. Raiola had the talent to work with at moments where he could have led Nebraska to huge wins, but he didn't. Is it his fault? No. But if Raiola has more pocket awareness and doesn't fumble and get hurt against USC, the Huskers could have easily won. If Raiola had just been decent against Ohio State in 2024, Nebraska probably would have won. Both losses saw Nebraska lose 21-17 after leading. To put it simply, much of the talent Nebraska has had under Coach Matt Rule wasn't exactly exploited by Raiola. Not to mention such comments about Nebraska aren't exactly called for when Nebraska paid him millions in NIL and also put their whole trust into one of the best recruits in program history, and not to mention a legacy recruit as his father, Dominic Raiola, played at Nebraska, making the comments a little uncalled for. Nebraska and its fans stood behind Raiola even when he struggled. So yeah, like there's a lot that Tyler said there that was true. I mean, like all Nebraska can do this year is just to prove Dylan Raiola wrong. Matt Rule has got the talent that he's wanted to accumulate. Now he's got to do something with it. And I think this is the year where you could jump up and bite in Indiana. You can potentially jump up and bite in Oregon or in Ohio State. Like doing stuff that you couldn't do when Raiola was at the helm at quarterback. Like they just got to go out and show it. But yeah, Raiola is not going to play at Oregon. He's going to transfer somewhere else. Appreciate your time, Dylan, for you being here, but I'm sorry, but I think we're going to be a little better off without you at the helm at quarterback.
We will be. And again, we'll probably have minimal success at whatever Big 12 or whatever school he goes to post Oregon and have a little bit. And yeah, will he probably find his way in the NFL to some extent, even if it's not very successful? He very well could possibly, but he's not going to do anything crazy. And the Huskers have a better future without him. And so, again, and he could have very easily just moved on without making the comments, but whatever. It is what it is. It's obviously, like you said, he's a bit of a hothead and easier said than done. And I guess in his position, maybe with his uncle being let go as well, maybe there's a little extra bad blood there and a little extra whatever feelings that he has. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the first time he's talked about Nebraska. Is that right?
Yes, he didn't even have a thank you note to Nebraska fans after he transferred out.
That's the first thing he said. That says a lot about him as a leader and just.
Well, here's an interesting. Let me see if I can. Pocket. His awareness is not good. There were numerous times where he was sacked from his blind side. He didn't have his head on a swivel. He keyed on one receiver all the time. In order to play, you've got awareness. Know when to throw the ball and have that. It's a big quarter move, particularly. In this age, you the quarterback run out of the pocket when he needs to.
Yeah.
Like true pocket passers are gone. Like in the nature of college football and even the NFL now, you've got more quarterbacks in the NFL who can run when they have to, but they can also get out of the pocket. I mean, take a look at Bryce Young. You have Trevor Lawrence down in Jacksonville. Haynes King, who's also going to be pushing Bryce Young for that starting job potentially. He could get some playing time as a Wildcat quarterback. Like, you know, Kyler Murray, very good runner of the football. Like, you're seeing a lot more quarterbacks who can run the football in the NFL, and a lot more of them are playing in college. Pocket passer, nobody's looking for pocket passers anymore. Yeah, pocket passing could be your main skill, but you got to have the other attributes too to make you a good quarterback. He's just not a well-rounded quarterback. He had moments, but he wasn't quite where we needed him. So I wish him well. Nebraska's going to be better off. I'm excited with Anthony Calandri and seeing what we can do with a true dual threat. But yeah.
I think that I agree. That is a true dual threat, and I think that'll make all the difference. I do think it'll be a better fit, and then for the future, I think it'll set us up for a smoother transition into where we go from there. So time will tell. Moving on, there was a Sports Illustrated article released that dropped a few days ago going over overrated, underrated teams. These are top 25. Obviously, this is just the preseason poll. It's not going over all the 25 teams. It just gives us a couple, and we'll go over if we agree or disagree. The first one is Georgia, and the article talked about them being overrated, and I honestly have to agree. I don't know if overrated is entirely the right word. Obviously, they're still Georgia. They're a top-tier team that gets talent, but because of NIL and the explosion of the playoffs and the explosion of everything in the landscape of college football, they are definitely not the team they were a couple of seasons ago. And yes, they are high ranked. They're a top 10 team. Do they have a great chance of making the college football playoffs? They have a very good chance of it. But in my opinion, they are definitely not. They don't reflect. They're ranked higher than they should be, personally, in my opinion. I don't think they should be ranked as high as they are. I think they definitely deserve to be ranked in the top 12, but I don't think they're as good of a team as they have been. So I'm going overrated. What are your thoughts?
I think they're a team that I think will win double-digit games. I don't think this is a team that's going to win the national championship. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kirby Smart still recruits at a high level, but there's a lot going on with that Georgia Bulldog program, whether it be players getting arrested for reckless driving or, you know, players, you know, getting arrested for other like marks and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot going on within that program. They could be a team that goes 10-2, 11-1, but this is a team also, depending on how or what happens with the players, they could lose 3 games. Mm-hmm. They can lose 4 games. Like, seeing how close things have gotten within the landscape of college football, like, everybody has closed the gap on these top teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why, like, you saw in Indiana win a national championship. This is the homer take in me, but within the next 5 years, you could see Nebraska go up and win a national championship. Like, there's so much parity, you know, within college football. You see these teams that either have never won it or haven't won it in 20 plus years, you know, getting to the point. I mean, you saw Miami. Miami was in the national championship last year. They haven't played championship for 20 years. Like, it's crazy. So while Georgia is a team, I do think they're slight. Can they win in the SEC? Yes. The SEC that used to be. The Big Ten conference in college.
Oh
yeah. Overall post, you know, Big Ten to SEC. The 10 has a winning record postseason against the SEC in 5 years. So the Big Ten has flipped the script. They're the best conference, top to bottom, in college football. The SEC's second. I mean, Alabama is not what they used to be. Kalen DeBoer's on a hot seat. If he loses 3 or more games, he's likely out.
Yeah.
As Alabama's coach.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You've got Lane Kiffin at LSU. Lane Kiffin's a good coach, but he wants to be the main show. Like Lane Kiffin in his own way is a head case. How far is that going to get LSU? You got Missouri who can occasionally sneak up and be pretty good. Ole Miss is a giant question mark, losing Lane Kiffin at the helm. But Ole Miss also made that run in the college football playoff without him. True. So Ole Miss could be good.
True. They could be.
Tennessee, they're going to be mid-pack. Again, the SEC is not what it used to be.
Definitely not.
So it's not going to take much for Georgia to maybe pull off another SEC title.
Yeah, no.
It's not going to get them a national championship.
No, agreed.
Moving on to underrated. Coming in at number 6 is Indiana. Indiana just won a national championship and they're preseason ranked number 6. I don't understand it. I don't understand preseason rankings and how you can put a 10-3 Texas at preseason rank number 4 or number 3, wherever they're at, and leave Indiana out of the top 5 after winning a national championship. Indiana should be starting preseason number 1. I think Indiana is underrated as far as the preseason polls go. I think they should be well within the top 5. They should be number 1, maybe number 2 to start. My biggest question is, how good is Indiana going to be? Losing Fernando Mendoza and some key parts of your defense. How good are you going to be? Kurt Signetti has recruited pretty well. So they could be good. I do think Indiana does take a little bit of a step back. I don't think they're going unbeaten this year. But I do think they could be 9-3, 10-2. I think they're going to still be a solid team. But what are your takes on Indiana?
I mean, I get your take on it being interesting that they're national champion ranked 6, but I honestly think they're not underrated because I don't think they're going to be as good of a team. I would still put them up a couple spots higher than 6, but I definitely don't think they're going to be as good or undefeated, and it's not going to be the same type of Cinderella type of year. But still, I do think I agree with you that it is interesting to see a team that just won a national championship be ranked where they are and then other teams ranked ahead of them. Moving on the next on the list for underrated was Miami. What are your thoughts on Miami?
I like Miami a lot this year. I think this is a team that could be playing for another national championship late in January. I mean, Mario Cristobal has recruited to a pretty elite level, and they're returning quite a bit too. So I think they're underrated. I think this is going to be a team that potentially plays for a national championship. What about you?
I agree. I think they will be. I think they'll be right back in there competing for one. I think people are counting them out just a little bit, and not really, because obviously they're still ranked in playoff rankings and they're ranked top, but I think that they will be right back there, and I think they're going to have the talent and the roster to compete for another national championship 100%. Next one is Alabama as overrated. I agree. I mean, I think obviously they've still had somewhat success, but for where Alabama was, not even close to the success they had even a couple years ago. So I've got to agree that they're overrated. I don't know. I mean, could they obviously still sneak into the college football playoffs and have a decent season with a decent amount of wins and not fall off that exponentially? Of course they could, but I think they missed the college football playoffs, or they're right at the edge of it this season, which they've been about right at the edge of it as of recent anyway. So, what are your thoughts on Alabama?
I think we're going to see Alabama finish on the lower end of the top 25 this year.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see an Alabama team that finishes 8-4. And I think Kalen DeBoer is going to get fired. I really do.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like they're coming into the preseason ranked number 11. They haven't landed this low in a preseason coach's poll in 18 years. That's just amazing. You know, all the years that Nick Saban was the coach and how consistent they were. They have never fell this low in 18 years. And their quarterback situation's pretty shaky this year, too.
Yeah, it is.
So I think we're going to see another downward slide for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think there's potential they could fall out of the top 25 at 8-4. So I do think they're overrated. I think it's going to be a halfway disappointing season in Tuscaloosa this year again, and they're going to be looking for a new coach this offseason.
I can see that. You heard it here first. Maybe we're talking Deion Sanders briefly next. Maybe Deion's next to Alabama. No, I doubt that. But yeah, I also think he's going to be out, whether it's this season or next or when. I don't. He's not going to remain that much longer. I can see them also being on the lower end, just as these other teams are on the rise. Texas Tech is listed as overrated. I'm going to go with disagree. They don't have quite the same team they had last season. I believe they're 12th right now. Or maybe they're ranked below. I don't remember what it said exactly. I should have probably written that down. Either way, they're ranked decently high up, but it's been made noted that they're definitely missing some of the players and some of the strength they had last year. But I still wouldn't say they're overrated. I'd say they're they're going to be a solid team. Are they going to go back, win the Big 12, go back and have a huge run? Possibly not, but I think they could go. They could have a really nice season. They could piece together a good season with who they have. So I'm going to go with, I don't agree with them being overrated.
I actually agree with being overrated. Yeah, they were really good, but I think, their management of the Sorsby situation, I think throws things for a loop. Now their quarterback is going to be Will Hammond, who, by the way, is coming off of an ACL tear. Not easy to come back from.
Not at all.
Also, they're losing on defense. They're losing the Bednarik Award winner, Jacob Rodriguez, who is a really good linebacker. Number 2 pick, David Bailey, and all Big 12 defensive end, Romello Height, to the NFL. They lost Austin Romaine, so Austin Romaine, Kansas State, Adam Trick, Miami of Ohio, and Trey White, San Diego State, are more or less Joey McGuire transfer replacements for that trio and have tons of experience at the previous stops. But there are just too many unproven guys in high leverage spots to give this Tech team such grace at the start of the season. So I actually agree with them being overrated. I think they are going to take a step back. I think we're going to see a different team win the Big 12.
I can see that. I do agree. I think we will see a different team at least competing to win it and possibly winning it. And I do get that. I think I also, again, I mean, like you broke it down better than I did. They are losing and missing out on a lot of talent they had that made them as good as they were. So that will show, but I still think they'll compete for the Big 12. Moving on to one that, well, I don't know if we'll agree on these last two. I feel like we will, but we'll see. Michigan was listed as underrated. I agree. I think Michigan is going to be on the scene. I think they will be a college football playoff team. I'm not having them finishing below 10. I don't think they'll break into the top 10, but they very well could. I mean, they could have a really favorable season. I think way back in our comments, people were talking about the scandals and the this and the that, and I get that, but again, I think they're actually on the downward from that. I think they're starting to be separated from that more than they were before even. So I don't think that will be a factor. I'm going to go Michigan is definitely underrated, and I think they'll be a playoff team. That's my
I think they are underrated too. I'm actually very, very high. This is a Michigan team that could win 10 or 11 games this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their defense is going to be pretty elite. You got Bryce Underwood in a Kyle Whittingham offensive system. It's going to be fascinating to watch. I think this is going to be a team that you're going to see finish within the top 10.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be shocked. I'm not saying they will, but they could win the Big Ten championship this year. And there's legit possibility that they could be a top 4 seed in the playoff.
I can see that for sure. I think, in my opinion, they are one of those Big Ten teams that I can realistically get into that place this season and be in a top 4. So time will tell on them, but I think we can both agree they definitely are underrated. And then I'm interested your take on this last team. I know I agree with what they put. Clemson listed as overrated. I agree. They are one of the worst offseason teams consistently the last few seasons, not really utilizing the portal correctly, not really utilizing the way college football is going. And Clemson is another team like in Alabama, not quite as successful, but like in Alabama, one of those teams that had that success in that little, 2010s, early 2020s stints, and it's definitely dwindling, and I think they will have a fall off. I don't even know if Clemson will be ranked this next season. I think they will be a low 20s or they'll be unranked.
I don't think they'll be a playoff team. They've got enough talent there to be, in the mid to upper teens, probably. I don't think they'll be a playoff team. They could be a 9-3 team. They finished disappointing last year, though, at 7-6. But again, like Dabo Swinney is still recruited pretty well to Clemson. Their defense was a fringe top 25 unit last year. They should take a step up. The offense is the question mark because their quarterback, I think, only had 71 pass attempts last year, which is not good.
No, not at all.
So they need to find a pass game to go with their run offense. If they do, they could compete at the top half of the ACC. I could see that. But this is not the Clemson team from about 6 years ago.
Definitely not. The fall off is huge, and that was a team that utilized the quarterback position. Like that was a huge focus, and so to not have that as your main point. But I can see what you're saying. They could be a team that kind of make the push in the ACC possibly. But I don't think they'll be a playoff team, and I still think they'll be a low 20s team. Realistically, will they be ranked? Probably, but I still think they'll be in one of those low spots. But time will tell. We'll obviously talk more about other teams, and our next episode will actually be a little week 0 preview / recap, as some games will have already been going on, but it'll be a fun little continual preview to that beginning of the season. So before we finish our day, we have 2 more little segments. One is over a team that we have touched on the last couple of years. It is not a team that Husker fans care for too much, but it is a team that gained a little bit of traction in the media and just overall in the last couple of years, mainly because of their head coach, Deion Sanders. Yes, I'm talking about the Colorado Buffs. A video was just released the other day of them, and they're being made fun of for being small and this and that, and obviously post-Shadur and post-Hunter era, the Buffs had a huge drop-off. They were never that.
Uh-oh, you froze. Oh, no. Oh, no, you froze. Oh, no, on the one of the last segments, too. Until he's back, I'm going to continue with what he's saying. Post Shadur, Colorado has not really done much. They They had that was should do they I think games. They had to lose out of the 3 season. Will coach Colorado give him his schedule open up with Georgia Tech this September 3rd. I think it's that opening. Oh, I'm cutting out also. Oh no. Oh no. Let's see if Montana hops back in. Oh, I'm good now. Okay. So they open up the season with Georgia Tech. That's going to be a very tough matchup on the opening Thursday night. Colorado very well could lose to Georgia Tech week 1. They should get the win against Weber State pretty easily. They then go on to the road at Northwestern. It's not at the new Northwestern Stadium yet. That doesn't open up until October. But that's going to be a tough matchup. Northwestern's always extremely defensive. I don't know what they're going to have on offense. Colorado could have some playmakers on offense, but that remains to be seen. But I think, Montana's back.
Hello. Yeah, my
There we go.
Oh, we have more comments.
Yeah, so when you froze, Jay was like, "Oh, by the way, Mark, you're breaking up too." And
perfect. Well, I'm back. I'm on my phone, so I don't know how to fix my camera screen, but yeah, my computer decided to die of all the things that happen. It's like one thing after another.
oh
Anyways,
geez.
it's okay though. It's only the preview show. By the time we're at our week 0 show, we'll be great.
Work out the kinks, yeah.
Exactly. But no. And either way, this has been fun. It was fun when we had all those comments going earlier about that was good. So as always, guys, I'm about to jump back into what I was saying, but comment, tell us what you want us to talk about. We enjoy the comments. That definitely helps keep the show moving along. But yeah, Deion Sanders, it's been there really wasn't that much success in my opinion. Like obviously bowl game, more success than what they had, but to fall right back down to where they were pre him just shows that they never climbed that far. So for me, it's like we were breaking this down before the show. They do not have an easy schedule. They do not have a favorable schedule. And truthfully, I think they will build off of where they were last year. A lot of people are saying they have a 2 to 4 win season because of their schedule specifically. I think we're going to be surprised. And by surprised, I'm not saying they're going to win the championship or do anything crazy, but I actually do think there is a universe where they are a better team than people think. And I think there's a universe where they could get a bowl game bid. I think that is also. I think 6 games is their ceiling, and that's ridiculous. I mean, not ridiculous, but it's kind of embarrassing that your ceiling is 6 games. But I do think their ceiling is 6 games. This was a good comment. The question is, what does it take? I honestly think as long as he wants to coach in Colorado, he's probably going to be able to. I think if they had a ridiculous 2-game or 1-game win season, then maybe they would feel pressure to let him go. But even then, I don't think they would. But I think he's done after this season. I think he's leaving Colorado. I think even if they won 8 or 9 games, I think he'll either go to the NFL, whether he takes a break and then goes and coaches somewhere in the NFL, or he'll just go right find a landing spot in the NFL. So I think this is Prime's last season in college football. I don't see him going to another college football team. I think if he coaches college football, it will be for the Colorado Buffs. And he may stay. He may end up staying and building something, but I just think that train has ran its course. I think that's it. I don't think there's a lot of track left on that for that train to go. So yeah, that's my
Yeah. So kind of to bounce off what you were saying. I mean, 2 out of the last 3 years that it's been losing seasons. They had a losing season last year. They had a losing season in year 1 where they started off hot, but they finished cold. In year 2, they won 9 games, but they got blown out on the road at Nebraska that year, which was great. I was there. It was a great atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
This year, there really isn't anything showing me that there's going to be anything positive for Colorado. I mean, 2 out of the last 3 years, they've been terrible. And the schedule does not line up very well. Like, they play at Georgia Tech, like I was alluding to earlier before you jump back in. They play Weber State. That should be a win. They go to Northwestern. That's going to be tough. Northwestern's usually pretty good on defense. They're pretty opportunistic. I don't know about Northwestern's offense, though, but I also don't know about Colorado's defense. So that game's interesting. That game, I think, is going to be 50-50. You've got to play at Baylor. Baylor's going to be much improved. What's Colorado going to do? They play against Texas Tech. Texas Tech is still going to be solid. I don't know. Like, you see a lot of these games. Utah, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's going to be much improved. They got the former coach at North Texas who ended up coaching an offensive powerhouse at North Texas and brought in a bunch of his guys to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's a dark horse. That could be ugly. You got Kansas State, who could be much improved. Arizona State, who's pretty consistent. Houston, who's another dark horse. And then you play Cincinnati. And then you finish the season against Scott Frost and UCF. But yeah, the schedule is not great if you want to see success. Can they win 5-6 games? Maybe. That's if the things bounce their way. But I think it's a 2-10 or 3-9 year. I think Dion is done. I don't think they've done enough on the recruiting trail to get players in. It's a clown show in Colorado. It is. It has been. It's just been headlined by the press. It's all show and no bite. So yeah, I don't think Dion's lasting past this year.
Yeah, I don't think he is either. Do you think he goes NFL? Do you think he goes commentator? Or do you think he separates himself from football and does something completely different?
I think he can go into an analyst role, but I don't know if he's going to be a head coach. If he's a head coach again, he's probably going to go back into the HBCU ranks where he was successful.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I don't think he head coaches. I think he becomes a position. I mean, I don't know. That's also not as much attention, and Dion likes the attention that the head coach position probably gives. So it'll be interesting. I think we can both agree that he won't be at Colorado past this season, regardless of if they make a bowl game or not. But to go back to this before we go to our last segment, I do truly think that there isn't really a hot seat. I think because he's done so much for financially and everything for that university that they probably won't let him go. If they went 2-10, that might warrant him getting let go. But I think even that they would give him another chance. Essentially, they'd give him another season or something instead of just letting him go. But time will tell. tune in and check with Colorado as we go. Our final segment of the day, we are going back to a little Nebraska Cornhusker action. We will do top 5, top 10, different lists. It won't always be Husker based, but this time I thought it'd be fun to do one that is. This is top 5 Husker quarterbacks of all time. I want to preface right now, this is going off of statistics, accolades, everything, because my list is a little bit of a mix of that because it's interesting. My list might get some heads scratched, but we'll go right into it. Starting at number 5, I've got Tommy Armstrong. Tommy Armstrong Jr., right? Junior, right? I think it was Junior. He honestly, I probably attended the most games when he was quarterback. I would say when he was QB, I almost went to every home game during most of his career as a Husker. He is a quarterback that leads in a lot of statistical categories for the Huskers, but because we never won a conference championship or he never had any statistical accolades, he's got to sit at number 5. But there's quarterbacks like an Adrian Martinez I'll give an honorable mention to, or a Taylor Martinez I'll give an honorable mention to. So that should show you that those guys aren't on my list. They're like the same type of, like, they put the stats up but didn't quite have the wins. Adrian Martinez is the biggest case of that. He had the least amount of win success, but also a lot of statistical success. But yeah, my number 5 is Tommy Armstrong. There are only 2 players on this list that are not national champions for the Huskers. I will say that, and he is one of them. So he is my number 5. Who do you got rocking at number 5?
So my list is actually a lot of older names.
Okay.
Nebraska's had some good quarterbacks over their history.
I think we'll have a same one that people might
know.
So,
so my number 5 is Scott Frost. He was the first quarterback in program history to rush for 1,000 yards and throw for 1,000 yards in the same season. Also led Nebraska to the 1997 national championship. So yeah, even though he tore Nebraska football down during his coaching tenure, I have to give number 5 to him because he does deserve that accolade at least.
He does. As a player, he did the exact opposite of his destruction as a coach. Like, he was a player that helped lead us to continuous success. And I've got to admit, he's also on my list. At number 4, I've got Scott Frost. I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, he was a dual threat quarterback, if you want to call him that. He was a quarterback that was able to command respect and was able to stay in control in pretty stressful situations. I mean, there were some battles. Obviously, that team took the lead and took charge and beat some teams pretty handily. But there were some battles, and he was a leader. I mean, I think, not to go on a tangent, but I think one reason everyone, to their credit, thought he might be the guy is because they did think he was such a good leader for that team and for the Huskers in the 90s, and they wouldn't be wrong. So you got to give him credit where credit is due. My number 4 has got to be Scott Frost. Who do you have rocking for number 4?
My number 4 is Jerry Taggy. He was the quarterback in 70 and 71, the first 2 national championship teams for Nebraska. Ended his career with 5,069 passing yards and 32 touchdowns. He was first-team All-American and All-Big 8 selection as a senior. And he had a completion percentage of 63% his senior year, and it stood as the best in program history until 2008 when Joe Gans broke it. And it's kind of crazy. Taggy's career passing yardage is still number 5 all time in Nebraska history.
That is crazy. That's sustainable. He's a legend. He's on my list as well, but he is not quite on my list. A very solid pick. That is definitely an older pick and definitely a name that not every college football fan would probably know, but that's how it all got started, with those college football national championships and that success in Nebraska. He was a huge part of that. So very solid pick. My number 3 has got to be Eric Crouch, the last Heisman quarterback for Nebraska. I don't want to say a controversial pick, but also I can see people thinking he either did not belong on this list or B did not belong as high. But because of what he was able to do, obviously he was a quarterback that was able to run the ball like nobody else. There were certain facets of the quarterback game that he maybe lacked, but overall, Heisman winner and one of the best Nebraska quarterbacks to do it. Didn't quite get himself a championship ring, or a national championship ring, but got pretty close and was definitely a solid player for the Huskers. So I got to go number 3 as Eric Crouch.
Eric Crouch is my number 3 as well. Heisman Trophy winner. He was the Walter Camp Player of the Year. He won the Davey O'Brien Quarterback Award, National Offensive Player of the Year. Like he holds 32 school records at Nebraska. He was one of 3 quarterbacks in college football history to rush for 3,000 yards and pass for 4,000 yards in a career, while becoming just the 13th quarterback in NCAA history to rush and pass for 1,000 yards in the same season in 2001. He finished his career with 3,950 yards and 59 touchdowns on the ground, and threw for 4,481 passing yards and 29 touchdowns. It's a lot of production.
Yeah.
You're talking 88 total touchdowns in his career.
That's crazy.
So he's number 3 easily.
That's a solid pick. Yeah, no, I've seen people actually on the TikTok page I've posted college football clips to and stuff to promote our show. I posted an Eric Crouch clip last year, and I had like 6 comments of people saying the most overrated Heisman of all time, that he stole the Heisman,
which is crazy.
All this.
He was very much so worthy. Very much so worthy.
I mean, you just ran off the stats that made him. So yeah, very solid pick. I believe that's our only one that will be the same, but we might have the same number 1. That might be the one that we also match with. My number 2, you've already had him on yours. That's Jerry Taggy. I got to have my number 2 because sustainability. First of all, he was the first. He has the accolades as well as the stats, and the fact that his stats have held up so much over time, over 40, 50 plus years, just shows how good of a quarterback he was. So he's got to be my number 2. And also, it's a special place in your heart when he's the first quarterback that helped bring championships in Nebraska. So he's my number 2. Who are you rocking for number 2?
My number 2 is Turner Gill.
Ooh.
Was 28-2 as a starter. Narrowly missed giving Tom Osborne his first national championship after they fell short in the 1984 Orange Bowl. In fact, that's the game that they actually got a tie in. They were trying to go for the win, and they just didn't quite get it. I think they tied in the Orange Bowl. He went 20-0 as a play, 3-time All-Big 8 pick, and second-team All-American as a senior. He completed 231 of his 428 passes for 3,317 yards, 34 touchdowns, and completed 54% of his passes. He also added on 1,317 yards and 18 touchdowns. After his football career, he went on and spent 3 seasons in the baseball minor leagues and played in the minor league systems for the Indians and the Tigers. So he was just a good all-around athlete.
I know that. That's super cool. I didn't know he played minor league. That's awesome. That's a good pick. That was an honorable mention of mine. I honestly wanted to do a top 10 list, but I knew our show would probably this would be at the end, so I was like, we'll keep it to top 5. But it's hard to do a top 5 because there are so many great Nebraska quarterbacks. Unless Dylan Raiola is your number 1, I think we might have the same number 1. We might not, though, as well. My number 1 has to be Tommy Frazier. I mean, obviously, he had the medical issues and sat and this and that, but definitely, I mean, when you think of Nebraska football, very often that is a player you think of or a highlight you might see. So I got to go with Frazier as number 1.
Yeah, Frazier's easily number one. I mean, he had a 33-3 record as a starter at Nebraska. He led Nebraska to back-to-back titles in 94, 95. He's the first Husker ever to win the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, finished second in Heisman voting, and received UPI's Player of the Year and the Sporting News Offensive Player of the Year awards, and was a finalist for the Davy O'Brien, Maxwell, and Walter Camp Player of the Year awards.
Definitely.
Yeah, he finished his career with 3,521 yards, 43 touchdowns through the air, and added almost he added 1,955 yards and 36 touchdowns on the ground. So, a lot of production, and he was also elected in the National College Football Hall of Fame in 2013. So,
yep, he's when you think of Nebraska football, he's one of the best ones, I'd say, for sure. So, anyways, that rounds up our list. If you guys want us to do another top 5 list, we'll do it on any team as long as it's not Iowa, Texas. Let me think of a few other teams we won't do top 5s on. But no, we'll do top 5s or top groups on any teams you want us to talk about. Let us know whether we are live or we are off air. Let us know in the comments, or let Jay know if there's any top 5 or top 10 you want us to cover. We will be doing all teams, different eras, different lists, all sorts of lists throughout the season. But again, if there's anything you want us to talk about, any show, we will always cover that. That takes us to the end of another show. When we talk to you guys next time, it will be week 0 action, and we will be one step closer to that week 1 mark. It has been great to get back and talk college football with you guys. I don't even remember if we did. I don't know if we did playoff. We might have did one show like right before the playoffs started.
Yeah, I think we did.
Might have been that, but we will try to stay up and stay consistent throughout the season and do as many shows as we can. Thank you guys for tuning in today. That was fun with the comments and with a little back and forth, whether it be about football or how much people hate my Lakers. But it has been great as always. Mark, do you have anything for us before we call the show?
I just want to thank you all for, the comments. Thanks for watching. The season's here. I'm excited. I'm excited to interact with you all so much more throughout the year. So please leave a comment. What do you want us to go over? And we will read the comments, and we'll take your stuff to heart. And as always, thank you for listening, and we will catch you guys week 0.
Oh yeah, week 0 action. It'll be here before you know it.